there are calls for justice after a woman was shot and killed outside the Spalding County Courthouse. Krystal Evans and her ex-husband, Tom Mallory, were at the courthouse Friday afternoon. They were there for a hearing when Mallory allegedly shot Evans a number of times, killing her. Investigators say he ran from police and eventually shot himself, but he survived.
Not happening. 2 words. That's all Tom Mallory texted his ex-wife after their divorce was finalized. 2 words that should have sent every cop in Georgia running to Krystal Evans' door, but they didn't. September 13th, 2024, 2:47 p.m. Krystal walks out of the Spalding County Courthouse, thinking she's finally free. The divorce papers are signed, the protective order is in her purse. She's got her keys in her hand, and for the first time in months, she's actually smiling. Tom sitting in his car across the street, engine running, watching her every step. Here's what's going to blow your mind. This isn't a story about a marriage gone wrong. This isn't even a story about domestic violence. Not really. This is a story about what happens when a man's deepest, darkest secrets get dragged into the light. And when I say dark, I mean the kind of secrets that can destroy a reputation, a family, an entire life built on lies. For 27 years, Tom Mallory had been living a double life, so twisted, so calculated, that when Krystal finally discovered the truth, she didn't just file for divorce. She exposed him, put his business on blast for the whole world to see. And that's when Tom Mallory decided that if he couldn't control his wife anymore, he'd destroy her instead. Dude, please leave me alone. It's over. Move on with your life. Please. Respectfully. Those were Krystal's last words on Facebook, posted the night before she died. Still being polite, still saying please, still hoping that maybe, just maybe, the man who'd threatened to kill her multiple times would find some shred of humanity and walk away. But Tom Mallory was way past humanity, because here's what nobody tells you about dangerous men. The most dangerous time isn't when you're trapped with them. It's when you try to expose them. When you threaten to take away their carefully constructed lies and show the world who they really are. Krystal Evans thought she was getting divorced. What she was really doing was signing her own death warrant. And the system that was supposed to protect her? They were too busy with paperwork to notice a woman screaming for help. Let me paint you a picture of what Krystal Evans' life looked like from the outside. Griffin, Georgia. Small town vibes, church on Sundays at Relevant Church in Locust Grove. 2 beautiful daughters, Precious and Tell-In, a thriving real estate business, a marriage that had lasted over 2 decades. Krystal was the kind of woman who could walk into a room and instantly make friends. Her daughter Precious said she had never met a stranger. She was obsessed with cats. And I mean obsessed. This woman would probably rescue every stray in Georgia if she could. But here's what nobody saw behind those Facebook family photos and church smiles. Tom Mallory was living a lie so big, so twisted, that when it finally came out, it destroyed everything. For 27 years. Let that sink in. 27 years, this man was playing house with Krystal while secretly meeting up with men on the side. We're talking about a full-blown double life. Wedding rings, family dinners, school plays, Christmas mornings, all while he's out there doing God knows what with random dudes. And Krystal? She's building their real estate empire, raising their kids, being the perfect wife, completely clueless that her husband is living like he's single and ready to mingle with half the male population of Georgia. But secrets have a way of coming out, don't they? When Krystal finally discovered the truth, it wasn't just about the cheating. It was about the years of lies, the fake life, the fact that every I love you, every anniversary, every moment she thought was real, it was all built on a foundation of deception. And here's where it gets really messed up. Tom wasn't just cheating with one guy. We're talking multiple men. This wasn't some confused husband having a midlife crisis. This was a calculated pattern of betrayal that went on for years. Krystal did what any strong woman would do. She gathered evidence. She confronted him. And when he probably fed her some sob story about being confused or sorry, she made a decision that would ultimately cost her everything. She filed for divorce in 2022. Now, most people would think good for her, she deserves better. But Tom Mallory wasn't most people. Tom Mallory was the kind of man who believed he owned his wife. And when she dared to expose his secrets, when she dared to walk away from his lies, he snapped. The divorce battle that followed wasn't just about splitting assets or custody. It was about Tom's desperate attempt to maintain control over a woman who had finally seen him for what he really was. And that's when Krystal Evans went from being a betrayed wife to being a woman fighting for her life. 2 years. That's how long Krystal Evans fought to get away from Tom Mallory. 2 years of legal battles, court dates, and escalating terror that would make your worst breakup look like a Disney movie. But this wasn't just any divorce. This was war. Tom wasn't just losing a wife, he was losing his cover story. For nearly 3 decades, Krystal had been his perfect beard, his ticket to respectability in their small Georgia town. Church-going family man by day, down-low player by night. And now, she was about to blow up his whole world. The cops knew their address by heart. Spalding County deputies were getting called to their house so often they probably had it bookmarked in their GPS. But here's the thing that'll make you want to throw something. Every time they showed up, it was he said, she said chaos. Tom would claim Krystal attacked him. Krystal would say Tom pulled a gun on her. Tom said she shot at him. She said he hit her. Back and forth, round and round, until the cops threw their hands up and left. Sheriff Darrell Dix called it, by all definitions, a toxic relationship. But toxic doesn't even begin to cover what was really happening. Tom had been arrested for domestic violence before, but guess what? He posted bond and walked right back home. Because that's how the system works, right? Give the dangerous guy a timeout and hope he learns his lesson. Meanwhile, Krystal is trying to rebuild her life. She's working her real estate deals, taking care of her daughters, and slowly realizing that the man she married doesn't exist. He never existed. But Tom's watching her every move, following her to work, showing up at her appointments, making sure she knows he's there, he's watching, and he's not going anywhere. And that's when Krystal did something that probably saved other women's lives, even though it couldn't save her own. She started documenting everything on Facebook. August 3rd, 2024, it's sad that I have to walk around, terrified for my life and my children's. I know if something happens to me. Please know who did it. This man has said numerous times he's going to kill me. I am posting and trying to leave a paper trail. This man is extremely dangerous. Think about that for a second. This woman was so scared, so desperate, that she turned to social media as her last line of defense. She was literally creating evidence for her own murder case, but the posts kept coming. Ring camera footage of Tom lurking around her property, screenshots of threatening messages, a digital diary of terror that painted a picture so clear, so obvious, that you'd think someone, anyone, would step in and stop what was coming. September 11th, 2024, the gavel comes down. After 2 years of hell, Krystal Evans is officially divorced. The protective order is signed, sealed, delivered. She walks out of that courthouse feeling something she hadn't felt in years: hope. Her daughter Precious said Krystal was so happy after her divorce. She felt free. We were even talking about doing a party.
She was so happy after her divorce. She felt free. We were even talking about doing a party.
A party. Can you imagine? This woman who'd been living in fear for months was actually planning to celebrate her freedom. She'd even bought a new house, a fresh start, a clean slate, a life without Tom Mallory's shadow hanging over everything. But Tom was having none of it. The ink wasn't even dry on those divorce papers when he sent Krystal a text that should have had every alarm bell in Georgia ringing. Not happening. 2 words. That's all it took to show the world that Tom Mallory had zero intention of letting his ex-wife go. Not happening. Like the court order was just a suggestion, like 27 years of marriage gave him lifetime ownership rights. September 12th. Krystal's getting ready for bed, probably thinking about her new life, her new house. And then she sees Tom's car. Again, parked outside, watching, waiting. She grabs her phone and makes what would be her final Facebook post. "Dude, please leave me alone. It's over. Move on with your life. Please, respectfully." Even in her terror, even knowing this man had threatened to kill her multiple times, she's still being respectful, still saying please, still hoping that maybe, just maybe, he'd find some shred of humanity and walk away. But Tom Mallory was way past humanity. That same night, Krystal calls the sheriff's department. She tells them Tom is stalking her. She's scared. She needs help. And you know what they do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. September 13th dawns like any other Friday. Krystal's got court. Tom's supposed to deal with some forgery charges. She's probably thinking this is it. He'll get arrested, she'll finally be safe. She gets dressed, grabs her keys, heads to the Spalding County Courthouse for what she thinks is just another legal formality. The hearing goes exactly as planned. The judge issues a warrant for Tom's arrest. But here's where everything goes sideways. Instead of cuffing Tom right there in the courtroom, the judge gives him the weekend. "Turn yourself in Monday night," he says. Monday night. Like Tom Mallory is some white-collar criminal who needs time to get his affairs in order. Krystal walks out of that courthouse thinking justice is finally coming. Tom walks out knowing he has nothing left to lose. And that's when a bad situation became a death sentence. 2:47 p.m., Spalding County Courthouse, South 6th Street. Krystal Evans pushes through those courthouse doors, phone already buzzing with messages from friends asking how it went. The warrant's been issued. Tom's going to jail Monday. She's thinking about that eviction hearing she needs to get to because even in the middle of all this chaos, she's still running her real estate business like the boss she is. She's walking to her car, keys jingling in her hand, probably already planning her weekend. Maybe she'll take the girls out to celebrate. Maybe she'll start packing for the new house. Tom Mallory is sitting in his car across the street, engine running, watching every step she takes. Here's what nobody in that courthouse knew. Tom had already made his decision. This wasn't some crime of passion. This wasn't a moment of rage. This was an execution, planned and calculated. Krystal gets to her car. She's fumbling with her keys, probably checking her phone, living in that brief moment where she actually believes she's safe. Tom rolls down his window. Bang, bang, bang. Multiple shots fired directly into Krystal's vehicle. She doesn't even have time to scream, doesn't have time to run, doesn't have time to call for help. Tom floors it, tires screaming. He's gone before the echoes of the gunshots even fade. But here's the thing about shooting someone in broad daylight outside a courthouse. There are cops everywhere. Within minutes, they're chasing Tom through the streets of Griffin, sirens wailing, radios crackling. They find him a few miles away, and when they do, Tom Mallory has put a bullet in his own head. But unlike his ex-wife, Tom doesn't die immediately. He's rushed to Grady Memorial Hospital, clinging to life, while Krystal Evans is pronounced dead at the scene. Think about that for a second. This coward had the nerve to shoot an unarmed woman multiple times, but when it came to facing the consequences, he couldn't even finish the job on himself. The news spreads through Griffin like wildfire. The woman who'd been begging for help for months is dead. The man who'd been threatening to kill her for years finally did it. And he did it right outside the building where she'd just been granted protection. Precious Evans gets the call every daughter dreads. Her mom, the woman who never met a stranger, who loved cats more than most people love their families, who'd been planning a freedom party just days before, is gone. Tom Mallory survives another 17 days in the hospital before finally dying on September 30th. 17 days where Krystal's family had to live knowing her killer was still breathing while she was in the ground. Justice? There was no justice. Just a dead woman 2 motherless daughters, and a system that failed at every single turn. Here's where this story gets really infuriating. Because Krystal Evans didn't just die, she was failed. By everyone. By every single person and system that was supposed to protect her. Let's start with the biggest slap in the face. Precious Evans, Krystal's daughter, drops this bombshell.
Had they had someone walked out with her, like, her friend asked, she would still be here.
A family friend had asked court personnel to escort Krystal to her car. Basic safety protocol when someone has a protective order against a man who's threatened to kill her multiple times. The response? Crickets. Nobody passed along the message. Nobody thought, hey, maybe we should walk this terrified woman to her car. But wait, it gets worse. Sheriff Darrell Dix comes out swinging on Facebook, defending his department. He claims surveillance footage shows Krystal never asked for an escort. He says the person who started the rumor about the escort request admitted it was a lie. Really? That's your defense? Arguing about who said what while a woman is dead in the street? But here's the kicker. Precious says her mom called the sheriff's department the day before the murder. Krystal told them Tom was stalking her. She was scared. She needed help. Their response? We'll look into it. Translation? We'll do absolutely nothing and hope it goes away. And let's talk about that judge for a hot second. You've got Tom Mallory in your courtroom. You've just issued a warrant for his arrest. His ex-wife has a protective order because he's threatened to kill her, and what do? You tell him he can turn himself in Monday night. Monday night, like this psycho is going to spend the weekend reflecting on his life choices and show up with a packed bag ready for jail. That judge basically handed Tom Mallory a free pass to commit murder. Here's your weekend, buddy. Do whatever you need to do. Sheriff Dix tries to cover his tracks by saying, maybe it wasn't a deputy or my agency that failed. Maybe it was the law itself. Oh, so now it's the law's fault. Not the fact that you ignored a stalking report. Not the fact that nobody thought to protect a woman who'd been documenting death threats for months. The most disgusting part? Dix has the audacity to say, the deputies that allegedly refused to escort her are the same ones that removed her from the car, tried to control the bleeding, and tried to save her life. Congratulations, Sheriff. Your deputies did their job after she was already shot full of holes. Real heroes. Precious Evans saw right through this damage control nonsense. She fired back in the comments. You are literally just trying to clear your name. You failed my mom, you and your whole division. But I'm going to get my mama the justice she deserves. And that's when you know the system is broken, when a grieving daughter has to fight for justice on social media because the people paid to protect her mother are too busy covering their own backs. Tom Mallory died on September 30th, 2024, 17 days after he murdered his ex-wife. 17 days where he got to breathe while Krystal was 6 feet under. But here's what really happened in those 17 days. Precious Evans turned her grief into a weapon. This young woman, who'd just lost her mother in the most brutal way possible, didn't curl up and disappear. She didn't let the system sweep her mom's murder under the rug. She got mad. And she got loud. While Tom was lying in that hospital bed, probably hoping everyone would forget what he'd done, Precious was out there demanding answers. She organized rallies at the courthouse, the same courthouse where her mother was gunned down. She called out Sheriff Dix by name. She made sure everyone knew that Krystal Evans wasn't just another domestic violence statistic. And you know what? People started listening because Krystal's story wasn't unique. It was just the one that finally got caught on camera, metaphorically speaking. How many other women had called that same sheriff's department begging for help? How many other judges had let dangerous men walk free with a promise to turn themselves in later? The community started asking questions, hard questions, like why a woman with a protective order had to walk to her car alone, like why stalking reports get filed in some bureaucratic black hole, like why the most dangerous time for a domestic violence victim right after leaving is when the system offers the least protection. But here's where Precious Evans proves she's got her mother's strength and then some. She's not just demanding justice for Krystal, she's fighting to make sure this never happens to another family. This isn't some feel-good legislation that gets passed and forgotten. This is a comprehensive overhaul of how Georgia handles domestic violence cases, mandatory security escorts for high-risk victims, real-time monitoring for people with restraining orders, immediate arrest protocols when protective orders get violated. Most importantly, no more of this turn-yourself-in Monday garbage. You violate a protective order, you get cuffed. Period. The 2025 Georgia legislative session is going to be interesting because Precious Evans isn't going away. She's got her mother's Facebook post as evidence. She's got a dead body as proof of what happens when the system fails. And she's got a community that's finally waking up to the fact that protective orders are just pieces of paper unless someone's willing to enforce them. Krystal Evans spent her final months trying to save her own life. Her daughter is spending her time trying to save everyone else's. And maybe, just maybe, that's how we turn this tragedy into something that actually matters. Because Krystal's death was preventable, the next one doesn't have to be. Because here's the thing about men who live double lives. They're not just lying to their wives. They're lying to themselves. And when that lie gets exposed, when their carefully constructed fake world comes crashing down, some of them would rather commit murder than face the truth. Tom wasn't just losing a wife in that divorce. He was losing his entire identity. The church-going family man, the respected community member, the straight husband with the perfect marriage. Krystal's decision to expose him on social media wasn't just about warning people. It was about taking away his power to lie. Every Facebook post, every warning, every piece of evidence she shared was another nail in the coffin of his fake life. And that's what really drove him over the edge. Not just that she left him, but that she made it impossible for him to pretend anymore. The saddest part? Krystal probably thought she was doing the right thing by being honest, by warning other women, by refusing to keep his secrets anymore. But in a culture where masculinity is so fragile that some men would rather kill than be exposed, honesty becomes dangerous. Truth becomes a death sentence. Tom Mallory spent 27 years building a lie. When that lie got exposed, he decided that if he couldn't control the narrative anymore, he'd end it. Permanently. And that's the real tragedy here. Krystal Evans died not just because she left an abusive husband, but because she refused to keep protecting a man who'd been using her as a shield for his own cowardice. You want to know what's really going to mess with your head? Every single person who knew Krystal Evans saw this coming. Everyone. Her Facebook was basically a countdown to her own murder, and we all just scrolled past it like it was another cat video. This man has said numerous times he's going to kill me. How much clearer can you get? She literally told the world her husband was planning to murder her. And what did we do? Hit the sad face emoji and kept scrolling. But it wasn't just social media. The signs were everywhere. Tom's behavior after the divorce got finalized should have had every alarm bell in Georgia going off. The not happening text? That's not the response of a man who's accepted his marriage is over. That's the response of someone who's already decided what he's going to do about it. The stalking got so bad that Krystal's friends and family were genuinely scared for her. They knew Tom was following her. They knew he was showing up at her work. They knew he was watching her house. But the system? The system was too busy with paperwork and procedures to save a woman's life. Let's talk about those domestic violence calls. Deputies had been to their house so many times they probably knew the address by heart. But every time it was the same story. He said, she said, nobody saw anything, case closed. That's not police work. That's lazy bureaucracy that gets women killed. Sheriff Dix wants to blame the toxic relationship like both parties were equally responsible. But here's the thing. There's a difference between a toxic relationship and a predator hunting his prey. Tom wasn't just abusive, he was calculating. The double life, the financial manipulation, the psychological warfare. This wasn't some guy who lost his temper. This was a man who'd been planning his wife's destruction for years. And the most infuriating part, Krystal did everything right. She documented the threats, she got the protective order, she called the police, she warned her friends and family, she even bought a new house to get away from him. She followed every piece of advice that domestic violence experts give to women trying to escape. And it didn't matter. Because the system that's supposed to protect women like Krystal is broken at every single level. The cops who don't take stalking seriously. The judges who let dangerous men walk free. The court personnel who can't be bothered to walk a terrified woman to her car. Krystal Evans spent her final months screaming for help, and everyone who could have saved her was too busy, too overwhelmed, or too indifferent to listen. Here's what nobody talks about when a woman gets murdered by her ex-husband: the explosion of damage that follows. Precious Evans didn't just lose her mother that day. She lost her sense of safety, her faith in justice, and her belief that doing the right thing actually matters. Taylin Spear now has to live with the knowledge that her stepfather executed her mother in broad daylight. Think about every woman in Griffin, Georgia who's currently trapped in an abusive relationship. What message did Tom Mallory's actions send them? That protective orders are worthless? That calling the police is pointless? That even if you do everything right, you can still end up dead in a parking lot? Krystal's murder didn't just take one life. It terrorized an entire community of vulnerable women. The relevant church lost a devoted member. The animal rescue community lost someone who would have saved every stray cat in Georgia. The Griffin business community lost an entrepreneur who was building something real. But here's what Tom Mallory didn't count on. He picked the wrong family to mess with. Precious Evans isn't going quietly into the night. She's turning Krystal's death into a rallying cry for every woman who's ever been told her fears don't matter. So here's my question for you. How many Krystals are out there right now, posting warnings that nobody's reading? How many women are begging for help while the system scrolls past their pain? Drop a comment if you think Sheriff Dix should have done more. Tell me, what would you have done differently if Krystal was your friend? And here's the real talk. If this story didn't make you angry, you weren't paying attention. Krystal Evans deserved better. Every woman trapped in abuse deserves better. Hit that subscribe button if you want justice stories that actually matter, because at Shadows of Crime, we don't just tell stories, we demand answers.